Blues, Brews, and Brats returns to downtown Waterville next weekend. We'll talk to one of the performers today. Donovan O'Neil from Americans for Prosperity, Ohio, tells us about One Small Step to 50, leading to America's 250th birthday celebration next summer. I'll get into the Epstein files and talk about that just a little bit. I've ignored it too long. And there's a brand new card game that you could play next time you go to Vegas.
It's a Scott Sands Show.
Hey there, how y'all doing? What is going on with my hair today? Seriously, what is happening with my hair? Episode 2592 of the Scott Sands Show. Officially, it may be a little out of numbered order if you're looking at the list for some reason. Been doing a lot more live streams, but this is a full episode of the podcast today. If you are watching or listening on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, any of those platforms, the Scott Sands Show, please hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Facebook, also the Scott Sands Show, hit like, leave some comments so we can have a conversation about the show and what we're talking about today. And hit the stars as well. I'm told that helps me somehow. You can also find me on X at Scott Sands Media. So wherever you're listening or watching, thank you for tuning in to today's episode. It's brought to you in part by a lot of friends, and I appreciate their support of the Scott Sands Show podcast, including Americans for Prosperity, Ohio. Be sure to visit BuckeyeBlueprint.com. We've got a brand new sponsor of the podcast, Carissa's Green Cleaning Service. They are terrific. Such nice people. It's a locally owned business, female-owned business here in the Toledo area. If you use the code SCOTT, you can get a 10% discount, and it's Carissa's Green Cleaning Service. She uses all-natural products, which are safer for you, the kids, the pets. It's something, interestingly, I never really cared about until recently, until I started this wellness journey of my own. So, you know, I've dropped more than 100 pounds thanks to Rixa Health, rixahealth.com, Tim and Mia, who have an amazing podcast as well called Health Without the System that you should subscribe to. And they've taught me it's not just the food that we're eating and how to eat cleaner, but everything plays a factor in our health. They had a whole episode talking about sunscreen. When you go to the beach, you're out in the sun, and how toxic most commercial sunscreens can be. So it applies to every aspect of your life, including what you're cleaning your kitchen counter or your bathroom with. And if you're like me and you don't want to do that nonsense on your own, call Carissa's Green Cleaning Service. Use the code SCOTT for a 10% discount at Carissa's. She and her team are absolutely amazing. Have you seen the new Superman movie yet? I have not, and I've got to be honest. I talked about this on Facebook the other day. I don't know that I've seen a Superman movie since Christopher Reeve was Superman, and it's nothing really other than I'm not a big fan of the DC and Marvel movies. This one looks interesting. A lot of it filmed in Cleveland. I'd love to see that and support the Ohio film industry. Obviously, there was a controversy about whether or not Superman has gone woke. I think they changed the motto from Truth, Justice, and the American Way to Truth, Justice, and a Better Tomorrow. I haven't actually seen that used anywhere, but I talked about that on Facebook the other day. I saw comments from my buddy Brad Meltzer, who talked about what the American way means, and I think truth and justice is a big part of that. And you may not agree with everything and all the parts and aspects of the Superman movie, but what I'm told, one of the best parts is Crypto, Superman's foster dog. And it's probably no coincidence that since the movie came out, there's been an increase in Google searches about pet adoption. I knew Superman had a dog. I didn't know it was a foster dog. I love that. The phrase "adopt a dog near me" has increased by 513% since Superman came out. And there was also a 160% increase in rescue dog adoption near me searches, and about 300% increase on Google into the phrase "adopt a schnauzer." Crypto is a mutt, but he shares some resemblance to a schnauzer, so that's why. The dog was created with CGI, but was modeled after the director's own rescue dog, Ozu, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Director James Gunn has a rescue dog. Gunn heard about the surge in dog adoption and said the film has been a barrage of blessings for me, and this may be one of the greatest. Ozu has no idea any of this is happening, but if he did, he would be proud. So that's great. And we've got great dog adoption and foster dog services here in Northwest Ohio. You should check out if you're interested in getting a dog or maybe a cat, like my producer cat Tiger, who is snoring now besides me. Usually when people talk about Vegas card sharks, it's a reference to gambling on hardcore games like poker and blackjack. But some people are also, as you know, really sneaky good at the card game Uno. And the Palms Casino Resort is opening the first ever Uno social club. I'm not making this up. It sounds like it might be like a temporary thing for select groups of Uno enthusiasts, of which there are many, featuring tons of Uno gaming, food and drinks, game-inspired decor, bowling, pool, other awesomeness in Vegas, a town, believe it or not, I've never been to. According to Mattel, which now owns the rights to Uno, more of these temporary suites are expected to pop up around the country this year. It sounds like it's a stunt for social media hype, so they're not bringing full-on Uno gaming tables to actual casino floors yet. But if you get a secret joy out of making chains of skips, reverses, wilds, and draw fours, it would be something to keep on your radar. It reminds me of Vegas Vacation, where Chevy Chase's character was going into that seedy casino, trying to play all sorts of games like rock, paper, scissors. And I think there was an Uno game there as well.
Uno will become the table game, a whole experience, one of the casinos in Las Vegas.
He picks up a card and he throws it back down, reverses direction and screams out loud to the crowd.
Always remember to yell Uno, otherwise I'm going to have to give you 2 cards.
Uno! Cocktails and a show, gambling on Uno.
What is this game? I don't have a brain! Are you serious?
Oh no!
What?
Now he's lost it all, gambling on Uno.
It's likely to happen. Let's get into some serious stuff before we talk to Donovan O'Neil from Americans for Prosperity, Ohio. This happened earlier today. Perhaps you saw the president's post on Truth Social about the Epstein files. And he's continuing to double down on the fact that Republicans and people in general should not be asking about the Epstein files anymore. This was earlier today.
Mr. President, I know you want to move past all this intrigue over the Epstein files, but I do want to ask you to clarify something you said this morning. You said this was all a hoax. Has your attorney general told you this was a hoax? What evidence have you seen?
Not the attorney general. I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters and Comey before. And it's a bad group. It started, actually, look at the Steele dossier that turned out to be a total hoax. The 51 agents, the intelligence, so-called intelligence agents, it was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats. And some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work. The Democrats are good for nothing other than these hoaxes. They're bad for policy. They're bad for picking candidates that can get elected. Like in New York, we have a communist run. He may get elected too, actually, but he'll destroy the city. No, it's I call it the Epstein hoax. It takes a lot of time and effort. Instead of talking about the great achievements we've had, a great gentleman yesterday, as you know, went on CNBC and he made the statement that Trump may go down as the greatest president of all in the United States. And instead of talking about the things we've achieved, we've had tremendous achievement. They're wasting their time with a guy who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including in the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people. Yeah, go ahead.
I find that interesting because I remember Donald Trump, the MAGA world, campaigning on transparency and releasing the Epstein files. And he's right. We should be able to tout the great accomplishments of the Trump administration. Done amazing things, historic tax cuts in the big, beautiful bill, which did have its own problems, I'll be honest. And I've been critical of those aspects, especially with regards to spending that I don't like in the big, beautiful bill. However, we need to get to the bottom of the Epstein case and the Epstein files for several reasons. First of all, these and you've heard me say this before, I'm not a big conspiracy guy. I love to read and watch conspiracy theories, but I don't believe them all. The problem with conspiracy theories is that they rarely pan out, but they also almost always never go away. And this, I think, is creating more questions and doubt and uncertainty about the Epstein files. I have no question in my mind that Donald Trump is mentioned in the Epstein files. I don't think he went to Epstein Island, but he's probably mentioned in the files, along with many prominent Republicans, Democrats, world leaders, business leaders. And it's not so much finding out the dirt and the salacious aspects of Jeffrey Epstein, as much as it is for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and the circle of people who exploited young women. They deserve justice that we're not getting because there has been no transparency on this case. You look at Pam Bondi, for example, who went on Fox News a number of times talking about how she had the dirt, and it's going to be earth shaking when it comes out. So either she didn't know, and she was just going on cable news to exploit clout and create all of this attention for herself. And she dug into the files and realized there's really nothing there, which is a major fumble. But the administration, in my opinion, has been mishandling this the entire way. They got ahead of the ball if there's nothing there, and perhaps the files, as I expect, have long since been destroyed by previous administrations and people in charge. So the whole MAGA movement was demanding accountability from our elected officials in government, and we're not getting that accountability. And I'm afraid the more Donald Trump tries to downplay the Epstein case, as he's doing now, even though he ran on transparency and releasing the Epstein files, it's potentially going to backfire and could cost Republicans in the midterms. They need to release all of the information that they have, regardless of who is damaged. Release it all, release all of the videos unedited, and allow Ghislaine Maxwell to testify before Congress. Have a press conference, answer every question, make every piece of information available, redact names of victims if you need to, but don't protect the guilty, don't protect the men who exploited these young women. And we could get into the whole aspect of whether or not he was a Mossad agent or an agent of some intelligence service. That's entirely possible. I don't like to go down or believe the conspiracy rabbit holes, but that's certainly the way it's shaken out. And there may be allies of ours. There may be people that we like in power who are damaged by this information, but it all needs to come out. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You can comment if you're on Facebook or YouTube, or Rumble, all of the platforms. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Epstein files, why we're not seeing them, why we're not getting all of this information. And if you feel in some way betrayed that Pam Bondi, that Kash Patel, that Dan Bongino, that Donald Trump are not being transparent as they promised. And the impact this is having on MAGA influencers is also interesting to watch. They've said for a long time that MAGA is a cult. And for the last 4 or 5 years, those MAGA influencers have been demanding the release of the Epstein files. And suddenly there's a change in heart because Donald Trump says, no, it's a hoax. Okay, maybe it is a hoax. If it is a hoax, release the information, release all of the files. Let us see why and how it is a hoax. We demanded transparency. We demanded transparency in the COVID-19 shutdowns and gain-of-function research that Dr. Fauci likely conducted. We demanded research in knowing whether or not the government was involved in January 6th. We demanded to know whose cocaine was left at the White House. We demand investigations into election fraud. The auto pen. The list is endless, and we're not seeing any of this transparency and zero accountability as promised. And I realize that Donald Trump is only 6 months into his second term, but he's got to start producing results on that front just as fast, just as successfully as he has done in extending the Trump tax cuts, just as successfully, I hope, as he is in the rescissions package to cut government spending and waste, fraud, and abuse. Those are all great things. But we also need to see it on some of these other issues that were part of the MAGA campaigns. Those are my thoughts. Just in general, probably talk about it much longer. I'd love to hear what you think about this. And we can get into it maybe on the weekend edition of the podcast too, based on some of your comments. Donovan O'Neil is joining me now, though. He is State Director of Americans for Prosperity, Ohio. You can learn more at BuckeyeBlueprint.com. Donovan, it's always great to see you.
Scott, always a pleasure to be with you and experiment in the wild, wild world of live broadcasting. It's fun. Keeps it exciting.
We are recording, so the podcast will be available. That's fine. Donovan, today is AI Appreciation Day. Do you use artificial intelligence at all? Are you a fan of AI?
I bought my ChatGPT subscription a piece of cake today just to let it know how much I appreciate it. I honestly, Scott, I use it all the time now. It's a lifesaver. It helps me be more productive. I appreciate the AI. I don't know about you, but it's great.
I use it extensively, and I'm even diving into the world of artificial intelligence videos with VO3 Stream, creating videos for one of my clients, 4 Guys on a Roof. I've been working on one literally for 2 weeks, and I can't get the prompt right. I want Superman to fly up off the couch and bust through his roof and have to call 4 Guys on a Roof for a new roof. But every time I go to create a scene, Superman looks entirely different. I can't get any character consistency across the video, but you know, as a guy working from a home office in an apartment with his cat on his lap all day, to be able to create a video like that in general, I've done a couple with like Bigfoot, some that were easier for character consistency. These are videos that would cost a production team $1 million to create in the real world. And now anybody is able to do it with the right prompt. It's amazing technology.
Well, we just in that same sense, we use, we do a lot of testimony. We'll write a lot of op-eds, press releases, things like that. It's so much easier to sort of feed it some of that information and get your testimony right 90-95% to where you want it. And then you put that personal touch on it. Saves hours, right? And especially in a fast-moving legislative environment, you got to get a lot of that stuff out, and it needs to be accurate. It needs to go, kind of fast. It's a game changer. The videos production, the social media stuff, like we've got some members of our team who use it on videos. And yeah, you're right. Like they can dump a bunch of video into one app. One of our guys, Clayton, I believe, shout out here, was showing me this last time I was with them. Dump a bunch of videos in there and it cuts and slices them up just like you would want it, puts it out there on the social media. It makes it a lot easier to get some of this content out. Before you know it, though, Scott, they're going to do away with us and it's just going to be an AI machine.
They already have in many worlds. That's frightening, but you still need that personal touch. You're right. And you can tell when something has been completely written by AI and hasn't been edited by a human to add those personal touches and a sense of humor at times, or whatever the context calls for. You need to really add that human element to the writing, or it's quite evident that a computer generated it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the case on everything, right? Especially, there are folks who would say, "Hey, we shouldn't go down this path; it'll kill jobs and hurt people." I think it's going to it is right, transforming our economy, transforming a lot of jobs, but progress throughout time has always shown to be a good thing, right? Technological progress, advancements that make human life easier and better and more productive is always a good thing. And so I think you got that in there.
New jobs for people that know how to prompt and use AI. So I think that's beneficial. And some of the technology that's now being used for defense purposes. I saw new technology that was developed that will use AI. AI has been used in some of these drone attacks we've seen around the world. Now AI is being used to counter those drone attacks and generate energy to shoot down the drones without firing a single bullet or missile. So, I mean, just amazing advancements almost every day.
That's scary stuff. That stuff kind of scares me. So back to the fun stuff. The Door Brothers do great AI videos. Have you ever seen those on social media? The Door Brothers.
No, I don't think I have. I'll have to look them up. This guy, PJ Ace is his name, is a guy I follow, and he's been doing some of the video ads for Kalshi, which are out of this world.
Okay. Door Brothers do some really good merging between music and AI videos, and they're just silly videos that feature very well-known global personalities. I don't know. It's amazing though how real all of that looks as they do that, even in that fantasy world.
Speaking of music, you were not able to do the show on Friday, although I think we've typically been doing the show on Wednesday anyway. But Friday, you're headed off to a music festival. I'm super curious now to know what kind of music festival Donovan O'Neil will go to attend.
Well, I live in Mansfield, Ohio, and they have the phenomenal Incarceration Festival.
Yes.
And so it's a 3-day heavy metal music festival. And I don't know any of the bands, to be quite honest with you, but it's just a good time. It's a lot of fun. Saturday night, I will be there Friday, but Saturday night, Marilyn Manson and Slipknot will be there. I think I've seen both of them. I've seen Slipknot before. I would be there for that, but I won't. I've got to be on dad duty Saturday night. But me and some other guys are going to be going out there Friday. Will be a good time. Do you crowd surf?
I haven't been to Incarceration, but I hear it's a blast. And if I had known, I could have gotten you some wristbands, I'm sure, for it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know a few folks who do that. And so we got a good friend who supplies all of the Budweiser products there, who always is very generous and brings a few folks along. So I'm lucky to get a tag along with that crew. And
I can't imagine how much Bud they go through at Incarceration.
It's got to be insane. I mean, it's one of the bigger events. So talking to Justin, who runs the operation there, it's one of the bigger events that they do where they supply. And it's great because it brings a ton of people to Mansfield, and you do it right for your viewers, listeners who aren't familiar, outside of the correctional facility that was featured in Shawshank Redemption. So you've got this old prison that's now, you can tour it. It's a museum basically. In the background while you have these heavy metal bands playing, rock bands playing late into the night. It's a blast. It's quite a production.
A lot of tattoos, lots of tattoos and beer.
Yes.
and loud, bring earplugs because you may need them. Donovan O'Neil, State Director of Americans for Prosperity, Ohio, here on the Scott Sand Show and on the podcast if you're missing the live stream. Let's go back to technology for just a second, because this ties into something that Americans for Prosperity is launching. It was on this day, July 16th, 1969, that the Apollo 11 mission launched, and we finally put a man on the moon. And I'm glad to see that under the Trump administration, NASA and SpaceX and other private companies working together to try to return man to the moon and eventually to Mars. I think it's important to continue this kind of space exploration for the survival of our planet. But the technology that has evolved as we talk about AI from 1969 till today, I mean, the technology in my iPhone right here is more computing technology than NASA had in that entire mission.
Oh, absolutely. And what's amazing about all of that is just in that small period of time, how I can point out how much we have progressed and the opportunities that provides for the advancement of humanity, but also the opportunity, jobs, and exceptionalism that brings for all the folks involved in that process.
Of course, Neil Armstrong's immortal words, "One small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind," which, notice this professional talk show host transition, translates well into a campaign that Americans for Prosperity is starting today, One Small Step USA.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this because, as we say, every giant leap begins with one small step. And we're launching this next phase. We've been working on this small step campaign for a period of time now, several months now, but we're really relaunching this in earnest in the run-up to the America's 250th birthday that'll be celebrated July 4th, 2026. And so Ohio being at the center of this theme, right? Talking about Neil Armstrong, nationally, AFP launching this campaign on the anniversary of man's first step on the moon. One, puts Ohio in a spotlight, which we love as Ohioans, but two, really sets the tone for what the theme of this campaign is. And as an organization, Americans for Prosperity, we don't just talk about American exceptionalism, history, and the important things that this country believes in, but we actually put those into action. We challenge folks to put those into action. And so that's where the key part of this campaign is actually making sure that we can deliver 250,000 small steps over the duration of the next year, 250,000 actions across the state of Ohio and coast to coast to make a difference and hopefully propel our nation forward into the next 250 years of greatness.
Yeah, it's not just a history lesson, although that's a great part of it, but it's going to really, I hope, inspire Americans to get involved in the freedom movement and protecting prosperity.
Well, yeah, and that's the idea around this. The what we want to be able to do, right, as we go out there and we talk about this, we found that through Gallup polling, Americans are at an all-time. Americans' pride in their country is an all-time low. I think 58% of Americans say they're proud right now of their country. And we want to use this campaign and use our nation's birthday as a key inflection point to sort of drive that conversation forward, improve folks' pride in our country. And so we're going to, our organization puts a lot of weight on the founding principles of our nation, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? That all people are endowed by their creator with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those same ideas that our founding fathers built our country upon are the principles that we at Americans for Prosperity fight for every day as the nation's leading conservative, right-of-center grassroots organization. And so we want to talk about those successes, those wins, those victories from our founding fathers delivering us this great nation, to the struggles that Abraham Lincoln as president led our country through in the Civil War, to the accomplishments of Ohioans like Neil Armstrong or the Wright brothers, right, that took us off the ground and into the skies and space. All of those exceptional moments in American history occurred because of those foundational principles. And so we're going to use that opportunity to connect folks around that shared vision, those foundational principles. But again, as I said, we're not just going to stop there. We're going to challenge folks to then put that into action. That action is writing a letter to your congressman, joining us for testimony at the State House, knocking some doors with us to talk about the importance of a flat tax and hear from your neighbors about what issues they care about and how they'd like to get involved. Every little step counts, Scott, and we're going to be challenging Ohioans to deliver 250,000 of them over the next 12 months.
I'm glad you clarified that. You're not actually asking me to walk. It's an actual, God forbid we get exercise. It's an action, because these consistent actions actually do eventually lead to big policy wins, as we have seen from the pressure we put on some of our representatives to get the big, beautiful bill passed, for example, or the budget. And as we'll talk about, I'm sure, to override Governor DeWine's vetoes on important things like property tax reform.
Well, yeah, I mean, just on that veto override and the need for overcoming the property tax crisis so many Ohioans are experiencing, right? A small step can look like contacting your state representative, encouraging them to get to Columbus July 21st and vote to override Governor DeWine's misguided vetoes. But it can be more than that, right? It can be actually organizing a group of other citizens and encouraging them to get involved to continue that conversation around local government funding, local government spending. It can be joining alongside AFP to build a county chapter, right? So we can bring other like-minded folks together to work on issues ranging from property taxes to education opportunity and school choice. All of these, and it can even be something, again, as small as just sending an email, right? But it's the culmination. Could you imagine, Scott, if you had 250,000 people taking action in support of a shared vision, right, or in the state of Ohio to build a bolder, better Buckeye State, the type of transformational, monumental shift that could have in the direction and trajectory of our country. Now, you take that across all 50 states, like AFP nationally is challenging ourselves and our activists and supporters to do. We're going to be able to have a monumental shift in the direction of this country. We think, if you share our viewpoints, right, towards liberty, freedom, limited government, those ideals, right, the founding ideals of our great nation, that's what we're going to be challenging folks to take small steps towards. And doing that, it's not just going to help the folks who are part of that movement, but it's going to have ripple effect, creating mutual benefit, cycles of mutual benefit, right, across the country, that going into July 4th of 2026, we're going to be able to look back on this as a moment where our country took a giant leap forward and we helped reignite the American dream for so many.
We live in a republic, and the only way that our representatives, the people that we send to D.C. or to Columbus, can vote effectively is if we let them know where we stand on these issues, and we have to sometimes do it quite loudly and overwhelmingly so they can actually follow the will of the people for a change.
Well, absolutely. And credit to some of our friends on the progressive left, right? We could think about all these moments where they have been able to rally folks, whether it's the state house or across the state, on the issues that they care about. And that's important, right? That's a key foundational part of our nation, right? This freedom of expression and a healthy exchange of ideas. But our challenge, right, to folks is for those of you out there who believe in the ideas of limited government, individual freedom and liberty, of a government small enough to fit inside your pocket, right? AKA the Constitution. That's what we're challenging you to do, right? Is get out and match them toe for toe, to go back to those founding principles, those ideals that our nation was started upon, and be engaged in that conversation, especially as more and more Americans tune in and pay attention to the birthday we have coming up next year. It's a great opportunity to have that conversation, to drive that dialogue, and to really, again, our full purpose here, right, is to reignite the American dream. And we're going to use these next 12 months and this One Small Step campaign to challenge 250,000 Ohioans to join us in that.
Where can we learn more and participate in the One Small Step USA program?
Yeah, go to takeonesmallstep.com. Takeonesmallstep.com. Or of course, you can always go to americansforprosperity.org. But that's where if you go to takeonesmallstep.com, you'll be able to fill out a quick survey, provide some information on the things you're interested in doing. Remember, our team will be able to reach out to you and give you opportunities to be involved. Again, whether it's sending a letter to your congressman, thanking him for getting the one big, beautiful bill done and protecting the Trump tax cuts, to joining us at a local AFP chapter meeting in your town on an evening at a local diner or restaurant, or even something as simple as just sending a letter to your state representative, an email to your state representative saying, hey, please fight to protect property taxes, overcome this property tax crisis here in the state of Ohio. All of those small steps will come together for monumental change.
Let's talk about the property tax veto that the state legislature is scheduled to begin talking about on Monday, I believe. We spent a lot of time last week talking about this veto from Governor DeWine and the state budget, and how the legislature is raising their hand and saying, no, we need to do property tax reform. And we talked about the 3,900 different, just across the state of Ohio, 39 different tax entities that are taking money out of our pocket every day, and nobody seems to have the will to want to rein this in.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that I think is important to recognize in this property tax crisis is this isn't something that's just developed over the last couple of months. This isn't something, and the recommendations, the policies that were put into the state budget that Governor DeWine vetoed aren't just ideas that that the legislature came up with willy-nilly and slapped in a big, budget bill. This is something the legislature has been acutely aware of for 2.5, maybe 3 years now, right? Last session, they brought a select committee together of House and Senate members who heard hundreds of hours of testimony, delivered an 800-page report, and within that report had 21 key recommendations that was the result of feedback from organizations and public testimony from the left, right, in between, citizens and local government officials. Those 21 recommendations, like most blue ribbon commissions, Scott, didn't just go on a shelf and get hidden somewhere in the halls of the State House. They actually acted on it. And so at the beginning of this session, folks like David Thomas, Bill Romer, Jim Hoops, and others introduced legislation. Thomas Hall introduced legislation to put those recommendations into action. So not all of them ultimately ended up in the state budget, and most all of them are some version of dozens of bills that, again, just in the last 6 months, have received hundreds of hours of testimony and been vetted fairly well. These ideas that ended up in the budget, though, that the governor ultimately vetoed, all 4 of them, were the ones that were generally considered pretty well accepted, I think. Folks kind of recognized, yeah, we probably should empower the local budget commission to have a little more authority and oversight on behalf of the taxpayers to avoid these spikes and rises. Yeah, we probably should make the types of levies that are brought to a ballot easier to understand and simplified. Yeah, we should make sure that you can't, if you're a school, have this 20 mil floor, but then also this millage over here outside of the floor that creates an opportunity for unvoted tax increases. all of that scrapped by Governor DeWine. But thanks to the leadership in the Ohio House, we've got a veto override session scheduled this coming Monday, July 21st, 11 a.m. And we're rallying folks up across the state to make sure their representative gets to Columbus and votes to override Governor DeWine.
Now, you may not know this, but have the votes been whipped? Do we know if the legislature has enough votes to override the veto? I've seen some social media speculation that there are some members that may not show up, that may vote against it.
Well, that's the interesting thing we're kind of working through right now. And, as a grassroots organization, we have the opportunity, right, to have our volunteers and activists engaging with their state reps. So we're kind of pulling a lot of the information in right now. Here's the numbers as they stand and why this isn't just a foregone conclusion, why it's going to take folks being engaged and reaching out and making sure their representative is listening, because it takes 60 votes. So it's going to take 60 votes in the House to override the governor. There are 65 Republicans in the majority caucus. Only 59 Republicans actually voted for the state budget. 5 voted no with their Democrat colleagues for reasons they can give you on their own time. And 1 was out ill on the day of the budget vote. So right there, we're down 1 vote. We need one of those 6 folks to be healthy enough to come back to Columbus, or switch their vote and say, yeah, at least on the property tax stuff, I'm with my Republican conservative colleagues. Beyond that, you then have some members who've been really enthusiastic about overriding the governor, and that's great, right? Because we know folks like Josh Williams, David Thomas, Brian Stewart, and others who have said from the get-go. Gary Click is another one who's been really pushing that message. We've got to override. And so they've been leading the rally cry. You have other folks who are sitting a little silent, and that's really where we're trying to shake the trees. And then you have some other folks where reports are coming out that they actually are actively working to whip their colleagues against voting to override Governor DeWine. Still curious why that would be, but that's the kind of stuff you're working against. It's not unlike Washington, D.C., though, right, Scott? You kind of see that on a lot of things right now.
And you got to wonder about the politics involved, and you got to follow the money sometimes, not making any allegations. I'll actually talk about this some more Friday on the podcast or over the weekend with State Rep Josh Williams, who will be on with us, so we can talk to him about the impact of property taxes here in Northwest Ohio. But this is something that's got to be done around the country, not just in Ohio. People are clamoring for property tax reform. These individual entities that are able to put levy initiatives on the ballot are just out of control and always asking for money, and it's our money. We should be able to keep it if they're not going to provide the services, or if they're not going to be good stewards of our money. Stop asking for more.
Absolutely. And that's what's so important about this. I look at this in a similar way to the federal vote happening right now in the Senate over the rescissions package, which is $9.5 billion. The Trump administration has said, we don't want this money. Congress, take it back, start paying down the national debt. And there's folks in the Senate, Scott, who are using this as a political pawn. We're talking about defunding NPR, PBS, and the crazy USAID stuff that the Biden and Obama administrations are doing to fund, wacky
Donovan,
programs.
What are they going to do without Sesame Street and Iraq?
Yeah. So, but even so, right? You have members in Washington who use these critical votes that should be slam dunks for conservative majority. They use these as political tools to try to play House of Cards style games. And it's not unique to DC. It happens here in Columbus and Ohio. And, it's natural that politics and power come into play. Ego gets hidden through, fronting principles. But the reality is, on an issue like this, when everybody understands and knows there is a property tax crisis in Ohio. There are 3 items that are very well accepted across the political spectrum as being not silver bullets, but key structural reforms that can begin to alleviate that crisis for Ohioans. And folks would choose to play political games or ally with progressive Democrats who just have no interest in actually providing leadership in the state of Ohio. That's where things get a little sideways and things get wrong. We need Republicans to be united right now as a majority, a supermajority in the state, reject Governor DeWine's vetoes, vote to override them, provide some relief on property taxes. They get back here this fall and start doing more legislating to get more good reforms done. That's going to reform our property tax system here in the state of Ohio, and most importantly, put taxpayers back in the dominant position where right now they're suffering under the current regime.
Donovan O'Neil is State Director of Americans for Prosperity, Ohio, and you can learn more at BuckeyeBlueprint.com. And be sure to visit TakeOneSmallStep.com to get involved with One Small Step USA program here between now and the July 4th holiday, Independence Day next year. Quickly, before we're out of time, Donovan, you've been doing a ton of telephone town halls that have been very informative and fantastic. You want to recap the most recent one? Is there one coming up that we need to promote?
Well, yeah, Tuesday, July 15th, depending on when this airs or when folks tune in, we did one in Northeast Ohio with Representative David Thomas, and later that evening we did one with State Representative Josh Williams, had a couple thousand Ohioans on both of those joining us for those calls where they got to ask questions, talk to their representatives, and understand sort of what's at stake with these veto overrides. Appreciate Josh and David joining us. We're not done, though. We've got another confirmed for Friday with Buckeye Blueprint champion State Representative Adam Matthews. Adam, by the way, is one of the leading voices on getting Ohio to a 0% income tax, so he knows a thing or two about reigning in government. He's going to join us to fire up Southwest Ohio, and then we'll have an announcement about a Southeast Ohio telephone town hall, as well as a statewide one we're planning to do Sunday night. So Friday, Sunday, follow us on social media. We'll post the details, and everybody's welcome around the state to join these. Again, a great way to get engaged, understand what's at stake, what the current state of play is, and how you can make a difference to make sure we bring some property tax relief to so many Ohioans.
All of that information on the Americans for Prosperity Ohio social media. Follow AFP Ohio on X and DT O'Neil on X as well. You'll have to take a break maybe from incarceration from the music festival to really get involved and move some of this along.
Well, we're not going to go too late into Friday because, one, nobody wants to talk. As much as you might care about property taxes, nobody wants to be on a telephone town hall talking about veto overrides on a Friday night. But we got those scheduled for the afternoon. We'll get folks involved there, and then we'll be off to incarceration and have a good time.
You should call it Margaritas and Millage.
Oh, well, maybe we could do an event with Scott Sands in Toledo on Margaritas and Millage, and every time someone says 20 mil floor, you have to do a shot or something.
You have to do a shot of a tequila. Maybe we should put that rule in the state legislature too, I guess.
It'd be a rough night.
Everybody on the same page or influence them to act accordingly. I don't know. Margaritas and Village. I like that name.
I think there's an opportunity there.
Donovan, great to see you. Have fun at incarceration this weekend.
I appreciate it, Scott. We'll see ya.
The Waterville Rotary's annual Blues, Brews, and Brats is coming up next Saturday, July 26th. It's a great event. Downtown Waterville. It's $20 to get in. Gates open at 5:30. Bring a lawn chair. It's a lot of fun with great blues music. Albert Castiglia, one of the performers, will join me in just a second. He's performing along with Sugar Ray Rayford and Brandon Santini. Also, of course, lots of beer, lots of brats, lots of blues. It's in the name. Blues, Brews, and Brats on Saturday the 26th in downtown Waterville. Waterville RotaryBBB.com has all of the information right there. Big news for that cousin of yours who still, I don't know, wears a Mickey Mouse watch. Disney adults are getting their own dating app soon. It's going to be called Single Riders, which is a great name. The beta version set to launch later this year. It's being created by a Disney superfan in Orlando who goes by the name on social media, Joe the Bearded Nerd. He says he came up with the idea a couple of years ago after he got stood up on a date and went to a bar at Disney World to get drunk by himself. I've never heard a more sad story in my life. He's been trying to loop in a programmer ever since he had the idea, finally found one. They're looking for people to beta test it. The full version should land sometime next year. He says he sees this as a way for Disney adults to connect and see if there's a spark, but it doesn't have to be a romantic thing. He hopes people will use it to make friends too, and he's been asking people for features that they would want, and one suggestion was a way to see if other single riders are at the park so you could meet up and go on a spur-of-the-moment date, ride Space Mountain together. Yeah, I didn't mean that as a euphemism. He says it's meant for theme park enthusiasts in general, but obviously Disney is the largest potential audience there. Speaking of your phone, if you remember when the biggest concern was that your cell phone was eavesdropping on what you were saying, which I think it is. I didn't believe this for a while, but now it absolutely is. Now your iPhone might be watching you undress. Rumor has it that Apple's upcoming iOS 26 update will include a feature that detects if you're having phone sex over FaceTime. Really, Apple? It will Reportedly, pause your camera and a warning screen will pop up that says, you may be showing something sensitive. If you feel uncomfortable, you should end the call. There will then be two buttons, resume audio and video or end call. It's supposed to be like a security feature, but some people online, as you might imagine, are creeped out about Apple knowing when they're being naughty. No official comment yet from Apple. Still a rumor for now, but people who are beta testing the new software say they've seen it in action. There is a place in your device settings where you can turn this sensitive content warning on or off, so it doesn't have to always be a buzzkill, I guess, if this is something that you do regularly. There are conflicting reports about whether the default will be on or off. If the default is off, you may never even know that the feature is there and exists. But if you have the option to turn it on, I don't know, maybe you have a teen in your house or a toddler who adjusts your camera settings from time to time, might be smart to turn it on. Apple, I guess the good news is probably not spying on your naughty chats. The images on FaceTime are analyzed using machine learning locally on your phone, and nothing, they say, is transmitted to Apple. iOS 26 will be launched sometime in September, with or without the new feature. So yet to be determined. Quick shout out to one of the sponsors of the Scott Sand Show podcast, Alp nicotine pouches. This is Tucker Carlson's company. If you use nicotine pouches, and if you don't, I'm not telling you you should start, but these are a great pouch. They come in three different strengths, 3, 6, and 9 milligrams. A lot of flavors. I love the chilled mint, which is kind of like a peppermint. They've got a delicious wintergreen, a tropical fruit, a couple other varieties as well. There is a link if you're following me on Facebook, The Scott Sands Show, or on X at Scott Sands Media. Use my link. You'll save 10% on your first purchase of Alp nicotine pouches. And by the way, great value too. There are 20 pouches in each one of these tins, which is about 5 more than other companies offer in their tins that you may be using. And I appreciate it. It helps support the show. If you use my link on all of your Alp nicotine pouch purchases, which is hard to say 3 times fast. The link is on Facebook and on X. Follow me there at Scott Sands Media on X. Albert Castiglia is joining me now. He's one of the performers next Saturday, the 26th, for the Waterville Rotary's Blues, Brews, and Brats. Albert, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Can't wait to see you next Saturday at Blues, Brews, and Brats in downtown Waterville.
It's going to be awesome.
Have you been to Waterville before? Have you played our area?
No, I haven't. It's near Toledo, correct?
It's just outside of Toledo. It's a great festival. This thing has grown so big. There are thousands of fans that are going to come out for a great night of blues music. And, of course, you know, the beer and brats, too.
Well, that's one of the things I miss about the living in the Midwest is the beer and the brats.
Well, you'll get your fill of the brats and beer, that's for sure. Are you from New York? Did I see that correctly?
Oh, I was born there, but I grew up in Miami.
Okay, so
we left when I was 4.
I don't normally think of New York or Miami as having a big blues scene.
Miami had a good scene in the 80s and the 90s, and it has quite a musical history. As a matter of fact, Miami. I mean, Ray Charles did his first recordings there, and Sam and Dave were from there, and Earl Hooker recorded a handful of tracks in Miami. Criteria Studios, where Eric Clapton recorded, Derek and the Dominoes, Buddy Guy and Junior Wells recorded at Criteria. So it has a very under-promoted or underrated, music history. But and it's a nice place to be from. And I had eventually you have to leave and go somewhere where you're closer to the source. And I did that when I left. I left in '97 and moved to Chicago. So
Chicago has a great blues scene. I'm from Mississippi, so we've got a big blues heritage out of Mississippi as well.
Where in Mississippi?
I went to high school on the coast, so southern Mississippi mainly.
Oh, wow.
Not anywhere close to the Delta, but still a great blues influence in Mississippi. So, working in Miami, living in Miami, did you inject any of that Latin influence into your music?
Yeah, I don't think that ever. Yeah, I think it always I think it's very common. I think it's more common in the blues than people think. I mean, especially when in regards to playing in minor keys. When you play the blues in minor keys, for me at least, a lot of that Latin flavor comes into it. You know,
So what gravitated you towards blues?
I just I grew up in the '80s, and there wasn't a lot of great. To me, there wasn't a lot of great music of substance coming out at the time. There were exceptions, of course. Um, Bruce Springsteen being one of them. I really liked uh, hard rock of the day. Back in the day,
Motley Crue.
ACDC. Not much of a Motley Crue fan, but definitely an ACDC, Van Halen, Iron Maiden. I kind of liked them. I dug them. But I didn't fit into that. I didn't seem to fit into that scene. I couldn't. My hair didn't really grow out. Couldn't grow out that long,
Right.
and I didn't have I didn't look good in spandex. So I
Yeah, I think spandex is a tough look on most people.
well, it certainly wasn't for me. And then I got to listening to blues, and it kind of spoke to me, and I, as a shy, you know, uh, 13, 14-year-old kid, for some reason the blues spoke to me more than any other genre back then. And gee, I was like 14 or 15, and I got into it, and I haven't left it since. It's never left me since.
And you've been putting out a lot of great records. I think Righteous Souls last summer was your last record. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and some great collaborations on there. Joe Bonamassa was part of that. Papa Chubby was on your record.
Yeah, Danielle Nicole, Chris Stone, Kingfish Ingram. Yeah, I didn't realize how many good friends I had.
Yeah, and that's a pretty diverse group of collaborators as well.
Yeah, yeah, they're at the top of their field. Having Chris Stone was very special, special to me. Uh, they all were. They all were. It just I didn't think when Mike Zito approached me about doing this project, I didn't think we were going to be able to corral a lot of these guys because they're much more successful than I am, and they're very busy. And the fact that they all made the time to sit in with me was very special.
And your music really kind of blends the elements of not only blues but rock and soul and some
Sure.
country, which is different than a lot of the traditional blues artists that we see.
Uh, you can't help but be influenced by every type of music. Um, when you go into making your own, the blues is always the main ingredient in what I do. It's the dominant, uh, for lack of a better word, strain of all the of all the different types of music out there. I mean, but you grow up listening to terrestrial radio, and so definitely the rock and roll and the soul, uh, and the music of the '60s, um, the infancy of rock and roll, the music of the '50s, all the way up to the '70s and '80s. It's hard to not have that influence what you're doing. Yeah, it's
Well,
fun.
and
We had gotten the opportunity a few years ago to play with Tito Jackson. Mike and I were on a blues cruise, and Tito Jackson was a guest. He had put out a blues album, and you wouldn't think Tito Jackson would fit into the blues, but I mean he grew up playing blues in Gary, Indiana, and there are riffs that he played that we subconsciously cop riffs off of it. He was a very good guitar player.
well,
So
and
I mean, it all comes down to everybody's own brand of blues has other genres influencing it.
well, and the blues is such a personal style of music. I mean, you can't really go out and steal Muddy Waters. It's got to come from the heart, and
Correct.
and you've got to sing your own truth in blues music.
Correct. correct. And look, I mean, BB King's influences were very diverse. It was T-Bone Walker, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, right down to Django Reinhardt and Wes Montgomery and or Charlie Christian. I mean, those are the guys that influenced him, and they're very, very different. So, but it became, he grabbed elements of what they did. He didn't blatantly rip off T-Bone Walker or Django, but he implemented things that they did, and it worked for him.
So much of it can come from your real life too. I know your 2019 album Masterpiece was inspired by your daughter and becoming a grandfather, and
Right.
you've talked about in Burning Bridges and Take My Name Out of Your Mouth how social media debates over silly stuff can really use music to navigate some of these cultural discussions
Sure.
in our world today.
That's what I mean, what else am I going to write about? I can't write about I'm certainly not qualified to write about the black experience or growing up in the Jim Crow South. It's not my story. And so all I can do is draw from what I'm going through in my life and share it with other people. And I'm sure there are people that go through the same struggles. I mean, Burning Bridges that whole album was written during that I Got Love album was conceived during the lockdown. And what I was going through during that year, 2020 was a tough year.
For all of us. And that's what makes it so personal. I mean, so much
Yeah.
about the blues is about struggles. I mean, it's in the name of the style of music. It's called blues for a reason. And I think there was so much creative development that came out of that COVID era among
Sure.
creative types like yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what we're supposed to do as artists is just if there was a blues man out of Florida named Rock Bottom. He was a great harmonica player out of Tampa, the Tampa Bay area, and he had a great song called "If you don't live it, you can't give it." And that's what the blues is all about. You can't. It's hard for me to not write about what's going on in my life and not be in my music. It's very hard. It's the only way you can write. Yeah.
We're talking to Albert Castiglia. He'll be performing with Sugar Ray Rayford and Brandon Santini at the Waterville Rotary's Blues, Brews, and Brats Saturday, the 26th. Gates open at 5:30. Tickets are only $20, and it's a great night of, obviously, blues, brews, and brats. Have you played with these guys? Have you played with Sugar Ray or Brandon before?
I'm very close to both of them. Brandon I've known for years. Since he was starting out, and Sugar Ray as well. I mean, first time I met Sugar Ray was St. Louis, Missouri. He came with a mutual friend of ours, and sat in with me. That was a long time ago. It was like 15 years ago. And now he's doing amazing things. He's an incredible performer. Brandon's an amazing harp player. My bass player, I believe he played on his last album. And so yeah, Brandon and I are very close. It's going to be a fun show. It's great when you have friends on the same bill.
Yeah,
because you never know what's going to happen, and when you have dear friends on the bill with you, you tend to put a lot into it when your friends are up.
You got to show each other up a little bit.
Exactly, and it's great. It's great. You never know. Maybe we'll all end up on stage together. I hope we do.
That would be a lot of fun. You got any favorite places to play? Where have you been on this tour?
Man, I don't know, man, but it's hard to beat Red Rocks.
Beautiful venue.
We just did. My friend Mike Zito and I have a band called the Blood Brothers, and Bill Murray became a fan of ours last year, and he decided he wanted to join the band. So we did some we're doing some dates with him this year, and he got us to Red Rocks. We wound up opening up for Warren Haynes and Big Head Todd and the Monsters at Red Rocks. That was probably the most amazing place I've ever played in my life.
That's a blast. Albert, I can't wait to see you Saturday night, the 26th. Waterville Rotary's Blues, Brews, and Brats. Go to watervillerotarybbb.com for all of the information. Tickets just $20 at the gate, 5:30 Saturday the 26th. Sugar Ray Rayford and Brandon Santini also on the bill. Albert Castiglia, where can people find your music, find your albums, get your stuff?
AlbertCastiglia.net is my website. And my last name is Castiglia. Don't forget the G. It's silent when you enunciate it, but it's there. It's very prominent in the name. So AlbertCastiglia.net.
Won't forget you because you are a G. Albert, it's great to meet you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Scott. I'll see you next week.
See you, Blues, Brews, and Brats.
Thanks, brother.
Coming up on the next edition of the Scott Sands Show podcast coming this weekend, State Rep Josh Williams will join me. He's also running for Congress in Ohio's 9th against Marcy Kaptur. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. You're listening or watching on YouTube or Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon. Hit the subscribe button. You're watching this on Facebook, The Scott Sands Show. Hit the like button, leave a comment, leave stars. That helps me somehow, I'm told. Also on X at Scott Sands Media. Thank you to all of the partners in the show, including Americans for Prosperity Ohio. Be sure to visit BuckeyeBlueprint.com. Welcome to our new sponsor of the podcast, Carissa's Green Cleaning Service. Use the code Scott for a 10% discount. Gave them a good shout out at the beginning of the podcast. They do a great job. Also, thanks to RixaHealth.com, Jamie and Mike at 4GuysAndARoof.com. It was raining all week. If you have a leak, if you need a new roof, reach out to 4GuysAndARoof.com. They'll get you an estimate back in less than 24 hours and can get your roof done same day in most cases. Farnsworth Cocktail Bar, 3rd Street Cigar, The Art of Men's Grooming, Whiskey Red Saloon. He's building a game room downstairs here at the Commodore Perry as part of Whiskey Red Saloon. He's got air hockey, pool tables, some other fun games there as well. And, of course, Alt nicotine pouches. Have a great night. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button, leave some likes and stars and all of that stuff. I'll talk to you this weekend with the next edition of the Scott Sands Show.